Coming up on the Tall Mike Wine Podcast.
You know why I stopped you? What was that you had in your hand there? Are you Tall Mike Wine? You got a coaster for me? I'm here to entertain as well as to inform, right? You want to know things. Steve, where are you from, man?
From Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
You're a cheesehead.
I'm a cheesehead.
Do you miss smelling the dairy air? You use that word work like you're here actually working. So have you been on a podcast before?
No.
I can't wait for you to hear it.
And then I'll be famous.
Well, I don't know about that.
And now, the Tall Mike Wine Podcast.
The cell phone is plugged in to the car charger. The wine is in a box in the back seat. Just a few bottles for drinking along the way and trading once we get to our final destination. Much more once we get there. And just like that, the podcast begins. This is episode 34 of the Tall Mike Wine Podcast. The wine podcast that's not all about wine. Sometimes it's about driving. Sometimes it's produced while the host is driving, and I am that host. I'm Mike Stone, and I'm on the road. This is somewhat of a sequel to an episode that came last year at about this time, November. My vacation to Walla Walla, Washington, a great place to taste wine, talk about wine, and immerse yourself in wine culture of Washington State. I am currently on Interstate 5, traveling north. I'm about an hour, a little more than an hour out from home, where I gassed up the car and got everything ready and packed. I paid $5.49 a gallon for the gas. It's 53 degrees. It's a beautiful sunny day. In fact, the sky is cloudless and a very bright, beautiful blue color. That might be as warm as it gets today because it's not supposed to be too warm up here in the north as I head through what I would term to be flyover country in California. This is the forgotten part, the part north of Sacramento. There is the town of Redding, which is not a big town. But other than that, it's a lot of very small towns and a lot of orchards, which are on my right. Some beautiful mountains to the left of me. I think that is the Mendocino National Forest. I don't know what mountain it would be, but snow-capped. A bit of snow, a bit of a dusting. Makes me chilly just thinking about it. 77 miles per hour is the current speed trajectory. I'm going to have the first pit stop of the day very soon. It's about an 8-hour day of driving. And something that I do when I drive, something that I do most days, and I've come to call it my superpower, is I drink a lot of water. I drink more water than I think most people do. And nobody tells me it's a bad idea. But what that creates, of course, is many pit stops. And the first one will be coming up very soon. So that's what's happening. I like my road trip. And I'm glad you're along for the ride. And I'll continue to keep you up to date as to what it's like out here on the road. Cannot believe what a beautiful day this is. And it has gotten a little bit warmer. We're up into the upper 50s now. 58. I have the digital readout on the dashboard. I don't know how accurate it is. I just assume that it is accurate. But a lovely day. We are still a bit south of Redding, north of the rest area. The pit stop occurred. The scene is much the same. Still looking at mountains to my left, off in the distance to the west. I believe those are the Trinity. Do they call them the Trinity Mountains? I don't know. Trinity National Forest. They may have a name for that mountain. I'm so bad with the California geography. Although, I do know that what's straight ahead of me, on the other side of Redding, shining like a beacon. On a day like today, the sun is bouncing off the snow-capped mountain ahead of me, the big mountain, Mount Shasta. I'm going to take a nice picture of that and put it on my Instagram, so you should check that out. Instagram, Tall Mike Wine. And the sign I just passed says I am 88 miles from Weed. Weed is just past Mount Shasta, so there I am in the northern part of the state. Enjoying the quiet, enjoying some podcasts. There's not a lot of local radio. Sadly, I've been scanning the dial a bit, but all I'm hearing right now is the word of Jesus. And that seems to be like 3 or 4 channels. My God. And then I guess the people at ESPN are doing well to spread their particular form of gospel. But I've been listening to podcasts. I listened to 3 episodes already of different podcasts. First of all, it was Mark Maron's tribute to Gallagher. Mark Maron, host of the WTF podcast, interviewed Gallagher at one point when Gallagher was in some trouble, people painting him as a racist, as a homophobe, and Mark held his feet to the fire. Now, he replayed the interview because Gallagher just died, and the interview was somewhat contentious because they really had a serious discussion about where does comedy have to draw a line, where it goes from making people laugh to making people laugh at other people. That was a pretty serious conversation. And then Gallagher ended up walking out. He took his microphone off, stormed out. So that's the last we'll ever hear of Gallagher. Also, the queen of the interview, Terry Gross, the podcast edition of Fresh Air from NPR. And again, Terry, if you ever need to take some time off, I'm available. And she talked to the man, the legend, Steven Spielberg, about his new movie, which is a semi-autobiographical. And then I caught the sorry, I had to lower the microphone for a moment. There was a state trooper on the side of the road, and I think he was looking towards me, and I didn't want him to see me with the microphone in one hand and the steering wheel in the other. Probably some kind of infraction, that. So I had to lower the microphone for a moment. What was that talking about? Oh, the other podcast. The other podcast was Fly on the Wall, my newest, favoritist podcast, with Dana Carvey and David Spade, and they speak to other Saturday Night Live alumni. You know, you have all this shared history with those two guys. If you've watched the show, at some point in my life, I watched it a lot, and other points in my life, I didn't watch it very much. And right now, I don't think I've watched it for 10 or maybe even 20 years. But you feel like, and the name of the show is Fly on the Wall, because you feel like a fly on the wall. A bunch of funny people in the room, and they're not trying to make jokes. They are just talking. But the conversation is funny, super funny. Oh, there's another trooper. He's going the other direction now. He's coming toward me. And there he goes. Can you imagine? I get pulled over. Sir, do you know why I stopped you? What was that you had in your hand there? Oh, it's a microphone. Hey, oh, are you Tall Mike Wine? I love your podcast. You got a coaster for me? Okay, I'm going to keep driving, and I'll speak to you on the other side of Mount Shasta and on the other side of weed. Well, not a lot of time has elapsed since my last check-in, but the scenery certainly has changed. I made it to the town of Mount Shasta, which is just south of the mountain itself, and the mountain was looming. And I took a picture. It's on the Instagram. Then the gas was $5.59 a gallon, so 10 cents more. And then the big sweeping right-hand turn heading in a northeasterly direction, just north of Mount Shasta, the town of Weed. There it was, and there it went in my rearview mirror, and then we started to climb. And now I'm at about 5,200 feet of elevation, and I talked about how it was a chilly day because the temperature was in the 50s. We just skipped down through the 40s in a nanosecond, and now I'm in the 30s. It's 37 degrees. There's snow on the ground, and it's winter wonderland as I drive through the very northern part of California into the Oregon border, and then a lovely drive through Klamath Falls, which is nice because you get to drive along the water for a few miles. Really not a lot of people out here. This is like that area in Oregon that I love so much, where there's not a lot of people. You get the sense that maybe I don't like people. Now, it's not true. It's not. I love people. I have some people that I really like a lot, and then a few that I sort of like. And then, okay, you're right. I could do without a lot of the people. So we're in this area with not a lot of people and this beautiful snowy landscape. I'm loving it. And I'm also reconnected to the radio because now I'm in the area a lot of people refer to, not as part of California, part of Oregon, but Jefferson, the state of Jefferson. You should Google this. And Jefferson has its own radio network, Jefferson Public Radio, and it's connected with NPR. So I'm now listening to some public radio, good signal. Does my voice sound weird to you? Weirder than usual? Maybe it always sounds weird to you, but right now it sounds weird to me. I think that's an effect of the altitude. My ears are sort of semi-plugged or popping. I don't know, something's happening, and my voice sounds a little weird to me. So I'm going to continue in a northerly direction. Right now it's actually northeast, but it will turn northerly, and then I'll be in Bend just as it's getting dark out, and in Bend for the night, and where I shall find something to eat and perhaps talk to you from that place. I have made it to Bend, Oregon. Last time we spoke, I was driving north, just crossing the border into Oregon from California, and I was watching the temperature on my dashboard drop. And it was dropping, 1 or 2 degrees. But as I got closer to Bend, it started to plummet because they're having a cold snap here, and there's snow on the ground, and it's cold. When I got to the hotel, it was 25 degrees, and I'm driving. I don't really wear layers. So I get to the hotel, and outside the hotel, I get out of the car. I'm grabbing a few things so I can run in and check in. And by the time I had my stuff together, my teeth were starting to chatter because it was so cold out. And I'm a Pacific Northwest native. I guess I'm used to the cold, but not so much when it gets down below freezing. So I made my way to a restaurant, a fairly new place called Rome, spelled R-O-A-M. Sipping some wine from one of my favorite Walla Walla Wineries, sleight of hand cellars, and having a delicious burger. And Jordan is taking care of me.
Doing my best.
Jordan is named after Michael Jordan, right?
Yes, I am.
Isn't that hilarious?
You have to give it credit to my parents.
So they were anticipating having a baby, and they loved Michael Jordan. And were they expecting to have a boy?
They did not actually decide on finding out the gender, so it could have gone both ways.
So they ended up with a little girl, and they named her Jordan.
I was going to say, I probably could have been named Michael or Jordan.
Jordan, and she works here at Rome. And do you live in Bend?
I do live in Bend. I've lived here now for about 5 years.
How do you like this cold weather?
The cold weather is a change, but, it's something that we deal with living here in Bend.
Well, that's right, because you're from Sonoma County.
I am. And living in Sonoma County, I can remember twice having snow in my entire life there. So it's definitely a different atmosphere.
I should apologize. There was a technical glitch that happened unbeknownst to me, probably through that chat with Jordan, and my recording device that I use when I'm on the road failed. So the end of the conversation was cut off. Sorry, Jordan. Jordan was great. I went on to praise her service. I ordered a burger with some truffle fries, and the conversation usually goes something like this when I have fries coming. Do you have anything besides ketchup in which to dip my fries? And I'm a big dipper, and I'll dip in almost anything including ketchup, but I don't love ketchup because there's so many things that are better. Even tartar sauce is quite yummy. But most nicer restaurants, as Rome is, have some aioli lurking in the kitchen, some aioli of some sort, a garlicky mayo. Jordan did not disappoint. She brought me a very large ramekin with a nice amount of aioli. So I wanted for nothing, really. I also had a nice chat with Nathaniel there at Rome. He is the manager, and he's newly installed as the manager and newly moved to Bend. Here's where the story gets interesting. He's Australian and was living in this country for several years. I think he told me roughly 10 years as a chef on private yachts, working out of Florida. And all of a sudden he's in Bend, Oregon. And you know what? This is a love story. He moved there to be with his lady love, whom he had met in Bend on just probably a ski trip. It's another love story on the Tall Mike Wine Podcast. And now it is the next day. The temperature overnight did not get down into the teens. It actually ended up around 20 degrees. When I woke up, it was 25 degrees, much as it was when I had gone to bed. I woke up fairly early, got myself some free coffee from the hotel continental breakfast, and that free coffee is now doing its job, pushing me onward. I have moved north, further north, through Redmond, the town of Madras, and now I am just dropping into what I have come to describe as my favorite little part of Oregon. And it's the part between those little towns at the foot of the mountains and the little towns along the Columbia River in the northeastern part of the state. And in between those two locales is this windy two-lane highway, not very well traveled, and all around it is basically rolling hills. I can't describe it any other way except scrubland. The tumbleweeds, the bushes are fairly sparse, and of course right now it's a chilly day. It's still in the 30s. It feels isolated, desolate, and I guess I love it because of that. There's a certain quietude. I'm just now passing the last few farms, getting outside of Madras. And for the next hour or so, I will be just enjoying a little bit of quiet time here in the car. And a little later, I'll be in Walla Walla, Washington. And now I have broken through the low overcast, gloomy fog. Yeah, going through that part of Oregon, typically I'm kind of grooving on the vibe because, like I said, I don't see any people. I see one or two cows. That's about it. Like, hey, cows, how did you get out here? But this time, it really, the sun was nowhere to be found. This was a gray day. Then I got to the Columbia River and headed east. And as I began to get toward the far eastern flank of Oregon, the Columbia River disappears because it turns north. Beautiful sunshine. It's a glorious but still chilly day. It's now early afternoon, 37 degrees, and I am inching my way ever closer to Walla Walla, Washington. Something I didn't mention last time, just before I went into the Great Abyss. I filled up my tank in Oregon, and this is part of the informational aspect of the podcast. I'm here to entertain as well as to inform, right? You want to know things. In this case, gas in Oregon was literally $1 cheaper than in California, and I'm okay with that. It was $4.29 for maybe more than $1. $4.29, I think, is what I paid. Now I'm in the sun, and I'm on the home stretch to get to Walla Walla, where the wine awaits. But first, I think there will be a nap. Probably flop out for half an hour, and then make a dinner plan. Ease into my vacation. And now I am in Walla Walla. Funny thing, I said I came out of the northern Oregon abyss there of all the low clouds and the fog, and it was so gloomy. And then along the Columbia River, it was sunny and beautiful, and I thought, hey, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm loving. Well, that lasted about 15 minutes. As I got closer to Walla Walla, the clouds moved back on me, and I got into Walla Walla, and it was cloudy and gray and 28 degrees. I had my nap. I wandered down to the French place, Brasserie 4, and had some delicious French onion soup. If you get a chance and you come to Walla Walla, the Marcus Whitman Hotel has this beautiful lobby, and late at night, there's nobody in the lobby, and there's all this lovely antique furniture and a fireplace. So I sat by the fire and did a crossword puzzle with a bottle of delicious wine, and that was my evening. And then I was up super early and had some tasting appointments to get to, and I'm at the first one now. I am at Kontos Cellars, and Steve is here. This is going to be confusing because Steve actually works at this winery but owns another winery at which I will be tasting later today. But Steve is here, and then Cameron showed up. Pretty soon we're talking about, Cameron's the winemaker. Pretty soon we're talking about Seahawks, Mariners, wine, restaurants, and all of a sudden I'm home. I'm back in the Pacific Northwest. I'm going to be at your winery later. Who's going to be there?
Emily is going to be there taking care of you.
Okay, I look forward to meeting Emily. Will you let her know I'm coming?
Yes. Yeah, she already knows.
Give her fair warning.
We let each other know all the things that are going on. There's a network, kind of like the trees.
Totally like the trees, because I'm in downtown Walla Walla where there are, how many tasting rooms?
35.
And I'm only going to see 3 of them today. And they're literally within like blocks of each other, which is cool. Steve told me about his early work in restaurants, which led him to wine, which led him to Walla Walla. But Steve, where are you from, man?
Originally, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
You're a cheesehead.
I'm a cheesehead and a badger and all those good things Wisconsin related.
Do you miss smelling the derriere?
We get a lot of that here.
It's true. It's true. I passed by many, many cows on my way in. It's not just wheat fields and vineyards. There's cows, too. Being from Wisconsin, I didn't catch your accent at all. You didn't talk about your mom at one time.
No, the city accent from Milwaukee is not quite as pronounced as the more rural areas. But, if I have a couple of drinks in me, the O's get longer.
All of a sudden, you sound like you're from Wauwatosa.
Yeah. Oh, don't you know that?
That's what I love about wine country, though. It brings people from everywhere. Once wine latches on to them, when did that happen to you?
I moved to Walla Walla in 2011. I came out here to attend the Walla Walla Community College Enology and Viticulture program. Took a little hiatus to work at Gramercy Cellars for a couple of years, but then ended up going back, re-enrolled in 2014, graduated in 2016.
What was it that got you out here? Where did that wine moment happen?
The wine moment happened for me back in New York City, where I was working in restaurants there. I was a wine director and sommelier at several different restaurants, and one night I had a bottle of L'Ecole 41's Estate Syrah from 2005. I know the exact bottle. And it just blew my mind. And I knew that Washington was someplace special for wine.
Don't say it too loudly.
But I have to because
it's our little secret.
Yeah, it's starting to get out, unfortunately.
The wine is so good. And literally, the wine that I liked best today was the 2018 Cabernet. I drink a lot of Cabernet. And I live in California. So, the place you want to go for Cabernet in California is the Napa Valley. You don't find any wine for $49 in the Napa Valley.
No, the price to quality ratio in Washington is fantastic. And that's also another thing that drew me here. And the ability to potentially make my mark on the wine scene was a lot greater than it would have been in California.
How long have you had your own winery, Time and Direction?
I started Time and Direction in 2016, was the first vintage. So this is vintage number 7. My tasting room has been open for 3 years now.
I love it. People coming here to start whole new lives. It's a real theme, isn't it?
It is. There's been a lot of people I've met over the years that have done similar things as to me and figured out that Washington was an amazing place for wine and wanted to come here to learn how to do it. There's actually 2 specific examples of where I told my story of moving from the East Coast to attend the program. 2 different gentlemen that I'm still friends with today did the exact same thing after they had heard my story.
You're like a preacher.
Something like that.
Preaching the word. You got a whole flock of people now. Thanks for chatting with me.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Oh, love being here. Even though it's a little gray outside. You think the sun's going to come out today?
Not a chance.
Did I mention that I'm just tasting wine downtown today? This is all a downtown tasting day. So the tastings are literally 100, 200 feet from each other. And now I'm here at the Mark Ryan Winery. Mark Ryan is the first and middle name of the guy that founded the winery. 20 years ago? 22 years ago? 22 years ago, yeah. So he's been around for a little while. The wines are delicious. I've tasted 4 red wines, 1 white wine. Alina here has been telling me all about the wines, and we've been talking about flavors and how your nose is important in wine tasting. But we actually started the conversation, and it's been wide-ranging. We started talking about concrete eggs, and then not long after that, we were talking about pearl jam. And then at some point, she told me about the importance of brain real estate. So this is the kind of thing that happens when you go wine tasting. If you're lucky, you actually get to talk about some stuff that's, like just out there in the world. How are you today?
Doing well, thank you. How are you?
Well, I'm on vacation, and I'm tasting wine all day today, and the next day, and the next day after that, and I think even the next day after that. So I'm doing pretty well. Alina has been here at the tasting room just for a short time, right? You just only been here this year.
Yes, I started in May of this year.
And before that, you were in marketing, hence the brain real estate. So you were marketing wineries. You came here to Walla Walla to do that job.
Yeah, that's correct. I moved here in 2020 because that's what you do in a pandemic. And I worked in the industry, and I got to know a lot of the local as well as other state, California, Oregon wineries, and learn a little bit about their programs, more about terroir. It's been a great journey so far.
Well, you're doing well. You could have fooled me. I would have guessed you'd been here for like 5 years. This is just like what you wake up in the morning to do. You're born into this kind of thing.
This is what I've been doing, not just since 2020, but it's transitioning from marketing into the wine industry proper. It's been quite, I find, a welcoming experience, and I'm really excited about all I've learned and all that I've yet to learn.
Was there one wine you tasted in the before times, before you were a quote-unquote wine person, that brought you in, that made you, like, it all clicked into place? Was there a wine, an experience with wine, something like that you can just, like, think of off the top of your head that got you here?
A friend of mine had me try some Malbec. It was her favorite, and I really enjoyed the experience. I enjoyed the finish of the wine, especially as a new wine drinker and new to reds. And reds can be really intimidating. And I really enjoyed all that it was giving. And she shared with me this is a South American Malbec. And she gave me a lot of interesting details. And that piqued my curiosity at the time.
And you liked it?
I very much did, yes.
And before that, wine had been like this thing that was maybe a mystery?
Not just a mystery, but, and I wouldn't say so much the industry, but the people around wine or the society around wine have a certain outlook and a certain perspective, and I respect that working now in wine, knowing that it is truly a labor of love.
People are here because they feel the passion.
They really do. And once you come to know not just the program, but the grape to glass process, whether you are estate or if you source your grapes, you know that from the moment those little vines start doing their thing out in the vineyard, the time it takes and all that goes into it, it's not only very important, but how much it means to the people who make the wine.
And it's such a long game, right?
Yes, it is. It's a labor of love in every way. And you have to, if anybody has a dream out there of owning a winery, I recommend that you think about it carefully, because this is a fully immersive experience.
It's not as simple as you might think. Alina, thanks for talking to me. Go catch those people. Some people walked in and saw us talking, and I think they thought, oh, they're not open. We're open. We're here. It's the middle of the week. It's wintertime. It's cold and gray. I'm going to hang out here at Mark Ryan Winery and continue to sip my wine. And then I will catch up with you down the street. I have walked down the street from Mark Ryan Winery, where before I left, I actually met some people coming in to do a tasting. These people were just off the road. They're headed to Montana, where they live, and they are farmers, and they farm something called beefalo, which is, I learned, this is a cow that's crossed with a bison, and they have beefalo. Elk Bridge Ranch, I believe is what they said it was. If you ever want to Google that, beefalo, it could be interesting. But now I'm down the street with Emily at Time and Direction. Emily Zilio. The X is silent, but there's an X on the end of her name. Emily's official job title is Fire Swamp Survivor. Emily is a storyteller, computer geek, and this whole winery is an 80s pop culture museum, basically. That's kind of the theme. I'm a little older, so the 70s is kind of my touchstone. Like if I walked in here and you had a lot of Brady Bunch memorabilia, I'd be like, oh, yeah, you get me.
I get that, but there's also a little bit of everything in the tasting room for all the nerds out there.
When you make the reservation, they ask you a few simple questions about things, which are a little odd for making a reservation for a tasting. And I had totally forgotten about this, but they ask you about movies, and they give you a choice of movies from the 80s. And I had chosen Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And when I walked in, Ferris Bueller's Day Off was playing on the television set. And Emily said, I'm playing your movie. And I totally forgot about it.
I forgot about it too until I actually put on that movie checking my schedule. So yeah, I had to be ready for you.
So Ferris Bueller's Day Off is playing, and I'm sitting at a table that is a glass top table, but underneath the glass top is a wooden replica of, this is some kind of gaming thing, right?
This is a Nintendo game piece as a table, yes.
Like I said, I'm a little older than that, so I grew up with Pong. Do you know what that is?
I do. Yeah.
Beep,
Yes.
beep, beep. That was the only sound it made.
Is that Atari?
I
had an Atari.
Well, no, there was Atari right after Pong,
okay.
but Pong was like the first thing, which was just like that. It was tennis,
Yes.
and it was black and white.
Yes, I remember that.
So the wines here are mostly Rhone varietals, a lot of Syrah-based blends, and some white Rhone varietals like Viognier.
Correct. We focus on Rhone varietals here at Time and Direction, and also our winemaking style is unfined, unfiltered, not cold stabilized.
Yeah, so the wines are real, man. You're getting every bit, all the aroma, all the flavor, everything. And Steve, the winemaker, was the guy that I talked to earlier today. That was a little weird.
Yeah.
I walked into Kontos this morning, and Steve said, oh, yeah, you're going to be at my winery later today.
Yeah, it's a little game he likes to play on our tasters. Sometimes he lets them know, and sometimes, most of the time, he doesn't. So they come in here kind of surprised.
But it also is just a testament to the fact that Walla Walla, small town. Everybody knows everybody.
Small town. Just like I told you earlier, I'm friends with the winemaker's ex-wife. He is friends with my ex-husband, who happens to grow grapes here in Walla Walla, who happens to manage Time and Direction grapes.
Oh, my God. Now I need like a soap opera theme.
Yes. That's what small towns are.
Wow. How long have you been here?
Since 1986.
Oh, my God.
To be an official local, you have to be born here, third generation, or put in 25 years.
Well, you're way beyond 25 years, 1986. You're not that old.
I put in my 25 years.
So which wine is your favorite?
My favorite wine, because it taps into my nerdy little heart, is the binary Syrah. So it is in binary language, ones and zeros, spells out the name Syrah. It's 100% Syrah. Our winemaker is a graphic designer, so we have a lot of fun with 80s pop culture. We don't believe in tasting notes. We think that they're stupid and silly, kind of persuade you into what you should be tasting. But we are super techie here, so we have QR codes on the back of all our bottles, so you can scan that, but also really funny descriptions as well.
Yeah, I love it here. I love the vibe. This is really nice. Time and direction.
It's a really fun place to work.
You use that word work like you're here actually working, but you're actually here having fun.
I'm having the best time. I get to meet people like you and be on a podcast.
I know, you're on a podcast. Have you been on a podcast before?
No.
This is your first one?
Yes.
I can't wait for you to hear it on Spotify.
Yes. And then I'll be famous.
Well, I don't know about that. Emily, thanks for hanging out.
Thank you so much, Mike. This has been the best day.
The best day.
In Walla Walla on this gray day. You betcha.
Wine is liquid sunshine.
It is. I love that. Yes. Look at us.
All right. I'm in time and direction, and I'm going to hang out for a while. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you so much, Mike.
What an amazing first day of tasting in Walla Walla. And there are 3 more days for me. Now it's real. But for you, the next 3 days will be part 2 of my Walla Walla Vacation sequel episode. An episode which has no title yet. I'm working on it. Thanks for listening to part 1. I'm back at the hotel, warming up a bit. And now I'm going to head down to Hattaway's and do dinner. Hattaway's, yes, remember from last year? Good stuff. And after a day of tasting wine, a cocktail is very often in order. And in case you wondered, the temperature here hovered around 32 degrees all day long. And now the gray skies are darkening as, yes, it's getting dark. It's going to get colder. I better get myself to dinner. Layering. The Tall Mike Wine Podcast was conceived and is written, edited, produced, and maintained by yours truly. If you like it, let the world know. Leave a rating and a review. It helps a lot. To see pictures of all you're hearing, check out my Instagram at Tall Mike Wine. I've been handing coasters out to everyone here. If you'd like your own stack of official Tall Mike Wine Podcast coasters, send me an email, tallmikewine@gmail.com, or for questions or comments or just stuff. Thanks for listening. Keep an eye out for part 2. From Walla Walla, Washington, I'm Mike Stone. Keep swirling. Keep sniffing. Cheers.